Ooh, what's up? What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another session of Coffee and Martial Arts. Salute, salute, salute. Cheers. Coffee, very good this morning as usual. And also, a very special guest today, a good guest as usual. We have lots of people that are, that have very interesting stories to tell. Amazing martial artists coming in here. And today we have Kenpo gentleman who's been around for quite some time. He actually was a direct student of Senior Grandmaster, of the late Senior Grandmaster Ed Parker. And I'm very honored to have him on the show today. And he's going to be sharing his points of views about Kenpo, his experiences with the man. And, it's just truly an honor to have here Master of the Arts, Sascha Williams of Ed Parker's Kenpo. Hello, sir.
Good morning. How is everyone?
Good morning.
Nice to be here with you.
Thank you for being here. Thank you for accepting the invitation. It's an honor to have you here, sir.
Well, it's actually quite a privilege to be invited. It sounds like it's going to be a lot of fun. So what do we got to lose, right?
Right, exactly. Yes. It usually is. And the whole point of this is to acknowledge and to give recognitions to all the amazing instructors and masters out there that deserve it. Okay, so I really appreciate that you give me the opportunity to do so. And
just with other people listening in on this, why would I miss that? Right, that's like my view. It's like you've done it. I've seen you like on Facebook, and I've seen that you started this podcast. I don't even know how long you've been doing it. Right, I try to not spend too much time on Facebook. So sometimes if somebody messages me and I don't message you back for 4 days, isn't because I didn't know the answer. It's because I haven't been on Facebook for 4 days. And as I think most people will realize that that's not easy to do, right? I resisted Facebook for a long time. I've only had my own account for like a little over a year, I think. There are certain people who are presenting themselves like you are, for example, or even Matt Snell with Kenpo Past, Present, Future, page, and some of the other guys like the Kempology page, for example, the Kenpo Karate Online. I've recently become a member of all those groups because there's good communication there. I mean, we know there's problems there too with heckling and trolls, but so what? That's always going to be part of life, right? So you're highlighting a lot of what's going on in Kenpo, and having a complete picture is the best thing you can do, right? So of course I'm going to appreciate the opportunity to also maybe have my opinion drawn into this, since you got everybody else talking on there. Kind of let them have all the fun.
I'm still very grateful to be able to do this because, it's just me inviting people, and people are saying yes. And they come with their enthusiasm and their stories and their backgrounds. It's just amazing to be able to share this with, and people are watching this. That also really amazing. So I'm very grateful for the people coming in, for the people watching the podcast. And I'm also grateful to the art itself and to the man who is in that picture right behind you, Mr. Parker, and his legacy. Because like I always say, once I heard this from a jiu-jitsu guy when they asked him about Horion Gracie, and he said, and Helio, and he wasn't a Gracie, but he said, "Oh, I have them in an altar, and I say thank you every day." He said, because they gave me a lifestyle, and I can bring food into my family table because of them. So, and it's the same thing, and he was, just joking about it, but he was actually, he meant it. In a way, right?
Yeah, and I think you should mean that, right? Because if you do not appreciate the thing you're using and the thing that has become one of the most important things in your life, then, well, how are you living your life then, right? That makes no sense, right? Are you only taking and it's only about yourself, right? There's a real there's an expiration date on that work, right? If I'm only going to try to play myself up, the moment I'm, it's like I like the Bob White's reference once about exit strategy. His is horizontal. So if you think about it in those terms, right? One day we have an expiration date, at least our body does, right? And then what did you leave behind, right? Most of us will be forgotten about in one way or another, except for the contribution that we made back to Kenpo.
Right.
Unless we have something else going for ourselves, right? But in my life, I think Kenpo is kind of taking center stage. I think by now I can conclude that. So no, you need to be appreciative, because if you're not, you're going to be ignorant, right? Since you brought that up, one of the things that people could have a misconception about with me is because, and this is kind of based on the fact that I sort of had the opportunity to force gump myself right into Mr. Parker's inner circle and be able to take lessons with him. There was a lot of coincidences that led to that, right? But before any of that was possible, we had to have the Al Tracys of this world, right? Yes. The Huck Clanises of this world, the Larry Tatums of this world, the Chuck Sullivans of this world, because without them, we would have had nothing. If Ed Parker would have been all by himself trying to spread this art out there, that would have not been possible, right? I know we had a conversation recently about, did Mr. Parker rely on some of the wrong people? Well, of course he did, as we all do.
Yes.
Look at any student you've ever had. Look at any black belt you've ever promoted. How many of them are still with you? How many can you still trust? And did you know this when you started them? No. Right? So it's a gamble. It is constantly a gamble. And we have to, one thing I think an underlying current in any martial art is that when people get started as white belts, when they're yellow belts, they only worry about one thing: skill. Right? You want to get good. That changes when you start becoming a second Kenpo, but become a green belt, become a brown belt, start helping. Suddenly your focus changes and your value system gets perverted a little bit, because now you're there also for friends and for status. And if you buy into the status thing too much, now it's going to slow you down, right? Now you're worried about how important you are. And there is we do a lot of character and leadership development at our schools, right? And one of the things that parents miss about their kids is that if your kid starts comparing themselves to somebody else constantly, you're raising a problem child, right? They should be, right? You should be comparing yourself to yourself. Maybe have some role models, right? Role models are great, but I'm talking about, oh, I'm better than him, and I'm better than him, or I'm better than her. Well, that is a human ego disease that we have. Right. We want to see whether or not we're as good as somebody else, and the outcome, we are basing our conclusion on complete BS. Or I'm better than him because I watched that video, and in that video his thumb is sticking up, right? And because of that he's wrong, I'm right, so I'm better. So we can do that, right? But none of that is actually about improving yourself, right? And so I'm pretty sure most martial artists would agree that one tool that we have in martial arts that is absolutely unique is to be able to become more self-aware, and to be able to see our own progress, and be able to measure our own progress, and be able to see the change within ourselves, right? And I mean, think of Mr. Parker saying a true martial artist is one who welcomes change.
Yep.
Right. And I think a big part of why he wrote that was because he saw the troubles. Same troubles we all got. Why is that black belt leaving? Why is he all of a sudden going into the, some other gym, stuff like that? When he was one of my black belts, he got it all from me. And now it's like, geez, I have to start over with another guy. All right. And so that happens a lot. And we're not, we're people. Everybody's got different goals.
Right. Let me bring in some comments, because we have a lot of people saying hello. Let's see. Jose Coelho says honor and respect.
Oh, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Maestro John Ward, salute Sascha and Frank.
John, how have you been? I watched your podcast. Like, what was that, 2 weeks ago? I watched it because I needed to know how these podcasts were like. Great podcast, man.
Great. Yeah. Paulo Coimbra, saludos masters from Portugal.
Muito bem. I actually tried learning some Portuguese back when the last camp was back in, I don't know, 2000, I think it was. And I speak a little Spanish, and Portuguese is pretty similar. So, but excuse my failed attempts at trying.
That's good. Anthony Angulo, good morning, gentlemen. Good morning, Anthony.
Good morning, Anthony.
Liam Brady, hi lads from Ireland.
That name sounds vaguely familiar. How have you been?
We have Jeremy saying hello from Brazil.
Oh, fantastic.
Jorge Antonio Uribe, hello. It's great to see Mr. Williams in your show. Thank you.
Jorge, where's Jorge from?
Regards from Chile.
Chile. Very nice.
Right.
Old buddy of mine, Roberto Vidal, is in Chile.
Right,
Chile.
yeah.
Yep.
Salute to Mr. Vidal.
Yeah, Mr. Vidal, if you see me, how have you been?
Merv Orman says, salute, Sascha, Infinity Concept.
Mervin, how have you been, old dog? It's good to hear from you. I see your stuff on Facebook. Keep it up. I hope your health is good.
Good. We have Rafael Herrera saying a big hello, Grandmasters from Spain, Andalusia, my respects.
Ah, okay. The last time I was in Spain was, I think, 1995 or something like that. Well, I think I went through Spain when we went to Portugal briefly, but that's why I got promoted in the middle of the 90s to my 5th, I think it was.
Nice.
I was in Spain.
Nice. Mr. Damien Abbott, always a pleasure to see and hear an individual who's focused and clear about her subject matter. Don't worry about pacifying the status quo. Say it as you believe it to be. Makes a pleasant change.
All right, Mr. Abbott. I guess we're letting in the guys from the UK.
Oh, yeah.
Don't worry, I got my dictionary by my side, so I'm ready for him.
Good. And also Greece is in the house. Miguel Isdrosos, hello from Greece.
Ah, Miguel. Very nice. Thanks for joining. You spent a lot of time in Greece. I helped John Nicolau. He was really a student of mine for over 10 years. They're a really good bunch over there. Really good bunch.
Oh yeah, amazing Kenpoists and the real deal. They like that old Kenpo beating each other up type of thing, and I really enjoyed them. Yes. Luis Gutierrez, I remember watching Mr. William competing at the IKC.
Ah, cool. Did I win?
Yes, of course. He says yes.
All right. You were there at the right year then. Nice to see you. And I'm glad you saw that. That's fantastic. Oh, by the way, anybody's got old pictures that they took of me or video, let me know. I'm looking for stuff like that.
Oh, nice. Great. Yeah. Angela says, wow, Mr. Williams calling it like it is. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Got a question. Because I've seen you on Facebook. Did you used to study in Jersey Island?
Angela?
Yes.
Angela was and still is, I guess, a student of Mr. Tatum, would you say?
Okay. All right. I wanted to place the picture because sometimes when you don't see a face for like 30 years or so, right, and they look different. So cool. Nice to have you.
She was actually in the podcast like 2 or 3 weeks ago, and she's going to be again by the end of the month.
Oh, okay. I'm going to have
a very good friend of mine.
Okay.
And I was her instructor for a little bit when I was teaching at the Larry Tatum Studios back in the late 90s.
Oh, okay. Excellent.
Yeah. So, yeah, very, very nice lady, very strong Kenpoist, very powerful Kenpoist. Carlos Villarroel, good afternoon. Big Master, saludos, salute, like every afternoon here in Brazil, Manaus, taking a good coffee and listening as always. Salute to your master guest from Brazil, Manaus.
Well, thank you. Salute to you.
Catherine Frank, hello from Germany.
Ah, die Deutschen sind hier. The Germans are here.
Yeah, yeah.
It's only fair. If we let the British in, we gotta let the Germans in.
Right. And now we have Gunter Groenstein from greetings from Belgium. Like the videos from both of you. Keep the flame burning.
Oh, fantastic. Gunter, appreciate the support. I'm still trying to pronounce your name and first name and last name right, and people would think it's easier for me. But you know, he's in Belgium, right next to Germany, and they basically speak minimum 2 languages, sometimes 3, right? Because some Belgians speak German, some speak French, and but Flemish is really what they. There used to be a song long time ago, a Flemish hit in Europe called "A Glocken die 24 Stunden läut." That means, you know, like bells that ring for 24 hours. That was
Of
a
course,
hit
I
in Europe.
understood that. Yeah.
That was a long time ago.
Well, Edward Chavez.
Ah, now I know two. Is this the white one or the black one?
Good question. Which one it is?
Probably the one who beat me in, I think it's, I know who that is. The man who robbed me of my grand championship trophy at Steve's Prize tournament. Is that the same Eddie Chavez? He beat my self-defense routine at the very end with his nunchaku form.
Nice.
Yep. Yep. My ex-girlfriend at the time was not happy.
Anthony says, question, what in your opinion is the problem, if there is one, with regards to the politics of Kenpo sonority?
In regards of Kenpo seniority?
I guess it's seniority.
Yeah, I'm sure. Okay. My eyes are a little blurry reading from the screen right here. You know, I'm 59 now, but
he did type it wrong. He said sonority. I guess it's sonority.
Okay, let's not harp on that. I spell like that too sometimes. So I think we know what he means. Well, what's my opinion on it? Well, good and bad, right? The biggest issue, I think, is this. We have to remember that everybody who studied with Mr. Parker was a human being, right? And so we all have the same, vulnerabilities and all the same potential that any human being might have, right? But I don't think any single person, I could be wrong, but I don't think any single person really started in Kenpo thinking that one day they would be the one to carry the flame and to one day be very high senior rank, and everybody's going to rely on me now, right? I don't think that's how most people started out. But then, like I said earlier, it is not uncommon to start, worrying more about your status, which really just means you're starting to be a little high on yourself, right? We've all done it, right? We all have to go through that. I remember Jeff Speakman when he did a seminar. Jeff and I know Jeff very well. We used to, work out together, and that was before The Perfect Weapon. But he had one saying that he got from another grandmaster, I think a Japanese grandmaster, I forgot who, and it was this: never wear your belt around your head. Right? That was a good one, right? And at first we do that, right? Sometimes we still have a little bit of around our head, right? Because we do, identify with this. That's really the human problem. When, it's one thing to be good at something. It's one thing to value certain things in your life. But when you identify with them too much, you get into trouble. In other words, if you are only a Kenpo black belt and that's all you are, there's a problem there. And you're going to eventually, that can lead to depression. That can lead to suffering, right? There's more to life than just the things we produce or the things that we are good at, right? What was the original question? I forgot. Oh, the seniority. That's what
seniority,
it was.
Yeah. He did say seniority, yeah. Right.
So that's the first thing to think about. It's like, well, what was it everybody's job to make sure that they continued on Mr. Parker's work? I felt it was my job. Let me share one story with you on why I thought that. Right. So, and then maybe that'll help figuring out how other seniors, and especially the ones senior to me, felt. Right. Because let's not, first of all, let me put it in the right perspective. I was a new kid on the block. I was in the 80s. I was a new kid on the block. If you see pictures, you see like people like, you'll see the pictures in a moment, right? People like Diane Tanaka or John Sepulveda or Bob Lyles or Andre Sims, right? Or Skip Ham. Most of those people were at least one rank ahead of me. Some of them were 2 ranks ahead of me. Oh, there's a picture. So this is the picture that was taken at the first IKKA belt camp after Mr. Parker passed away. So this was, I believe it was February of 1991, right? And so what you see in there is a cross section of most of the people that were active at the time. I know sometimes there is a question where you see that you only see 1 7th degree black belt in there. You see him right in the middle. If you have a hard time spotting him, look at the guy that's almost right in the middle of the picture with a white gi on and a white headband and a beard. Right above him is one of our 7, Frank Trejo, right? And in typical Frank Trejo fashion, he's flanked by 2 female black belts, and I think you'll recognize who those are, right? But people sometimes question, well, where were the other 7s? Well, they had already not really been coming regularly. Take Tom Kelly, for example, and I had a conversation with him about this, right? I had several conversations with him. I invited him over to my school several times in the 90s, right? And Well, he wasn't really active in 1989 either, or in 1988, or in 1987. He was already doing his own thing, right? He was teaching Kenpo. The words that he told me, because don't forget, he was in California originally. He was up in Fresno. He taught in Fresno before I ever taught in Fresno.
Wow.
Right, together with Huck Planis.
Right.
So when he talked about that, and then he told me the story about how he then moved, and I think his words was something like, "God only knows why I never called Mr. Parker back, why I never continued to be active. I have no idea." Right. So, and I think he, in a way, maybe felt regret towards that. Right. But look at the position you're going to be put in. Imagine you're one of the highest ranks in an art, and the instructor passes away, and suddenly the whole world is looking at you. You're like, okay, I guess now let's find out how good you are. Okay. And that's the first thing that's going to happen to you. Now you have sort of this conflict of egos, I guess you can say, and it's really just fear. It's fear.
And they're comparing you. They're comparing you to the Grandmaster.
Right. Exactly. And I think that's the smaller of the problems. I think the bigger of the problems is they're going to compare all the sevens to each other.
Right.
Who wants to be put in that position? And that's not fair, right? Frank Trejo was very good with that because he was less ego oriented. I think a lot of people would agree with that, right?
Yeah.
So I remember him, like we were doing seminars in the early 90s at the Hyatt Regency before the IKCs, how we would always do that, right? That was every Thursday night before the IKCs would be seminar time, right? Mr. Parker started that. It used to be at the Santa Monica School, which is also referred to as, there you go. That's one of the last years. Mr. Parker had moved that workout to the Hyatt Regency. And that's what you're seeing right here. That's Mr. Parker slamming me against the wall there at the Hyatt Regency. And does it say on the bottom of the picture the name of the gentleman who posted this?
Scott Marker.
Scott Marker, right? No, I don't really know him. I probably know him just fleetingly. And we may have met even back then. Obviously, we were in the same room. There's no question about it. He was the one who took that picture. I don't have the original picture. I have none of the pictures he took. I actually found him on Facebook, I don't know, maybe 4 months ago, and I messaged him back and forth, but he doesn't really know me, right? I asked him if he had some of those pictures. I'm still trying to see if he probably has them somewhere, and it's going to be a lot of work to find them, is what I'm thinking. Right?
Probably, yeah, I guess, yeah.
But the point is that Frank freely admitted, hey, I don't know long form 7, never learned it. And he didn't do that looking defeated, feeling awkward about it, nothing. He said, well, you know what, you can only specialize on so much stuff. That's kind of like the tacit message there, right? Is it a big deal that I don't know it? And nobody in the world thought it mattered, right?
And the Form 7 was added to the program, right, to the curriculum.
Well, yes, and that's also why we want to acknowledge Larry Tatum's work, for example, because as you know, that he's still teaching the old knife set, which I happen to refuse to call long form 8 because Mr. Parker never called it long form 8, but he used to call it long form 7, at least informally, right? And it was there prior to what is now long form 7, the double club set, right?
The double clubs.
Or the double club form, I should say. So Mr. Parker really put a lot of energy into developing long form 7. That was something he worked very hard at, right?
That's
Don't forget.
Nice form. Right? That's a nice form. I really like it.
Well, it has several real good things about it. Number one is it completely matches the material that we already learned, right? If you think of like 5 storms, being just 5 swords, right? And same thing with reversing maze and repeating maze and gathering clouds. Those of you have versions of those with clubs in our hand. That is really, really useful because it is a opportunity to step into Mr. Parker's thinking process, right? If you want to become spontaneous with Kenpo, you have to know how Mr. Parker decided, oh, there it is. There's my 5 storm version right there. All right. We'll probably be putting out a few more of those of just long form 7, only because it irks me a little bit to that so few people really know this form and appreciate it. I just saw Mr. Abbott's post that he's got somebody down in South Africa he's going to do an intensive with on long form 7. I'm ecstatic about that. I'm ecstatic when I see somebody work Mr. Parker's material, appreciate that material for what it is, and then shares that enthusiasm, because especially when it's somebody experienced like with Mr. Abbott, he's not going to just show them how to twirl a stick around.
Right.
I'm sure he's not going to do just that, right?
Right.
So it is a matter of us sharing, okay, look, this is what Mr. Parker felt can be done with a weapon or 2 weapons in your hand. And you don't have to go to some other philosophy. You don't have to change your tactics. You can think like a Kenpo black belt should think. You can retain all of those strategies. You just got 2 clubs in your hand, so you make adjustments, right?
Right.
So that's why, since the subject came up, I wouldn't concede to a second seat in club techniques to any other art. None. Simply because now I do realize that if somebody spends all their time working clubs, no matter what art they do, they're probably going to be pretty good with those, right? Because not everybody does that, right? So if you only ever spend 1 hour a year working long form 7, yeah, well, you're probably not going to be good with that, right?
Right.
But it's a form that makes as much sense as long form 6 or long form 5 and 4 before that, right? But what happened was that, to finish that previous question, I don't want to leave this hanging. Long form 7 used to be the highest form or set that Mr. Parker taught to people. And then in the late 80s, he developed the double club form, right? And let's not forget, that probably also had something to do with the movie, The Perfect Weapon. All right? Because I've heard somebody say, oh, it's only a tournament form. I don't believe that at all, because it's based on 5 swords. 5 swords is not only a tournament technique, right? It's based on reversing mace. Reversing mace is not only they're totally not tournament techniques. They are street techniques, right?
Right.
So, and here's the other aspect. Maybe the statement is still true, though. Maybe he did develop it because he wanted it to be represented in tournaments. No reason not to, right?
Right.
I cannot imagine a situation where Mr. Parker would go, well, let me create the first technique against the right punch or whatever you want to do it against, right? But let me make sure that I make it so it's only good for tournaments.
Impossible. Impossible.
There's no way, right? So even at Parker thinking, oh, it's going to be just a form or something like that, even though I don't think he thought that, but that would still lead to him retaining the same principles, the same concepts as MTN technique.
I don't think that's possible, not even if you try.
Right. Well, it is. We've seen some. Well, think of the Chinese Wushu Federation, right? It's more flash, right? It's more acrobatics, right?
Yeah, but not with Kenpo. I mean,
not with Kenpo. not coming out of Ed Parker's brain. I would say.
Exactly.
Right.
Right.
But we have to consider that Mr. Parker was just starting to spread long form 7. Right. The last year he was very busy. We've seen seminars of him. We've seen him I remember talking to Gilbert Velez. He was saying like, oh yeah, Joe, released a video of Mr. Parker teaching him the long form 7, and there I am in the same video sitting right there because we learned it together. Right? And that happened a lot, right? I mean, I had the opportunity to ask Mr. Parker just about any question I wanted when I went to his private lessons, my private lessons with him, right? That was probably the biggest benefit. I had a karate school since 1984. I opened it in Salinas, California. It was an IKKA school right from the start. So that's how my relationship with Mr. Parker started. But the way that I learned the art was still a combination of working with different people. It wasn't just Mr. Parker. If I had only gotten my Kenpo knowledge with my lessons of Mr. Parker, I would have very, very little knowledge, right? I absolutely, we all have to do this. We have to rely on the whole structure that's available in Kenpo, right?
And that's what he's created.
Yes, yes. And, and Mr. Parker, he pointed me to who to go to. He told people, okay, work with Sascha, show him the extension, or show him the material, show him this, right? And so I had people that there was other, seniors that helped quite a bit. And I bring that up because at long form 7, I remember that Skip Hancock and John Sepulveda and myself working like the end right after Mr. Parker passed away. We were at Skip Hancock's gathering that he has up there, used to have in Spokane, Washington. I don't know if he still does or not. And so we went with the ending of the form together, right? So that, in other words, we were able to compare notes. Right? I know Sepulveda worked quite a bit on that form because he brought it back. I used to go to his school for several years because he was ahead of me. He's older. Like I said, I was like the young kid on the block, right? He was a couple of ranks ahead of me. What actually happened was I originally studied with Douglas MacLeod in Santa Cruz, California. So
Right.
technically, I'm a Central California guy, right?
Okay.
And that group was smaller, but it was very, very early and very good, actually. Doug MacLeod was an interesting character, to say the least. But he was a fighter. He was a fighter. People that you can like talk to about that. There's another Douglas, and that's Douglas Eaton, who also was an Ed Parker student. So Douglas MacLeod, you're going to find on the family tree, the original family tree that Mr. Parker printed and then regretted that he printed it. Right? But Douglas Eaton also took lessons with him, and he didn't get welcomed too much by the Northern California group, right? Carmen, I think we've all had our share of gatekeepers that we had to work past, right? So in other words, sometimes, you know, your head instructor is the one that is the connection to Ed Parker. Well, he can also sever that connection to Ed Parker then, right? So they can. So sometimes instructors, especially back then, could take advantage of you, for example, right? Do what I say, or otherwise you're kicked out of the IKKA. I know a good friend of mine I talked to yesterday who had a similar story. I think you know what I mean. But I forgot where it came from with this story, but there's a lot of crosses, a lot of crossing over, right? So it was good that we had each other, and I'm forever grateful to all the higher ranks that were there in front of me, or ahead of me. Larry Tatum is a good example. One thing about Tatum is his timing is just incredible, and it has been that incredible since like what, early '80s or something, right? He had figured out how to hit properly in Kenpo and how to do good basics long before many of the rest of us did, right? And so not to acknowledge that is a little foolish, because then you get a false recollection of your own accomplishments, and then that makes your ego worse, and then you think again that you're done studying because you were so great to begin with. But if we don't remember our roots,
if I may, it doesn't take anything away from you to acknowledge other people's abilities and work, right?
Right. I think quite the opposite. Quite the
opposite.
Right. Well, like I was pleasantly reminded by you when we briefly spoke yesterday that we had met long time ago. Well, long time for you. It was 1994, I think you said, or 1997, I think that was. Right. There's my book. Thank you very much.
Thank you. This is a good book. I really learned a lot from this, and I have read it at least four times, and I always get something out of it.
Oh, good. There'll be a test on it on Friday.
Okay. No, I'm ready. Yeah.
But the point I was making is this. That means that you were there at the 97 gathering of the Eagle, the seminars that were being taught there, right? And Hall of Fame awards, right?
Yeah, I think it was 99.
I'm sorry?
I think it was 99.
Right. And that was the year, actually, I don't know if I've showed you that picture or if I brought that picture across. There's a picture of me, and I don't think I sent you that one, of me and Joe Robello and Milt Crenshaw sitting together with our certificates, right? And it was all of us becoming charter members in the Kenpo Hall of Fame.
Nice.
That was the same event that we met.
Yeah, I remember that. I think there was a gala when they gave those awards.
Yes.
I remember that night. Yeah.
Yep. And see, they had invited Larry Tatum as one of because it was Al Tracy who put I think it was Jim Tracy still involved until the first day of that event. I did not witness that, so I don't want to say anything about it. But once the event started, the only Tracy left standing was Al Tracy, right? And he had originally invited Larry Tatum, because Larry Tatum being one of the top representatives of Ed Parker's Kenpo at the time, right?
Right.
And he had invited me because he knew also that I was one of the top IKKA Ed Parker representatives. So I was more there to represent the IKKA because I was at that point a regional director. I was some people don't know that I was a very close advisor to Mrs. Parker for quite a few years, right? And matter of fact, that was good and that was bad, right? It allowed me to influence things in a positive way as much as I could, but I also paid a high price for it because people that did not agree with the new leadership in the IKKA would then maybe split off and form their own organization. And now we're competitors. Now we're working against each other.
Right.
And that's some of the things that even like with John Ward, for example, he gave you a little bit of an insight back then how he got started under John Sepulveda and everything, right? So back then, a lot of the, let's say, first degree, second degree, or third degree black belts, they didn't really have much of a choice other than to pick a side, right? And part of that, was generated or caused because of the need to protect the trademark. The Parker family had to protect their trademarks. They couldn't just give that away.
Of course.
And the copyrights for the journals, right? And back then it was more important to understand, okay, well, are you going to try to make this IKKA work or not? And also, let's not forget, at first, almost everybody tried to make it work. That's another thing. We can't just write off some people and say like, oh, look, they only lasted 3 years. 3 years can be a pretty darn long time if you're nonstop dealing with politics. So it was quite a mess. And it was amplified really just by fear. Right. I want to make sure I'm acknowledged for my accomplishments. And now there's another guy that's maybe my belt level or higher belt level. And now people are looking at him. Hey, why are they not looking at me anymore? They're looking at him. Let me get the attention back over here. So it becomes the sort of a battle of egos. Right. But I think ultimately the one thing that everybody's never, ever lost was their love for Kenpo.
That's good. That's good. And let me share some more comments because we have a lot of people saying hello here.
All right.
Romero, salute to Maestro Sascha Williams and to you, Maestro Soto, from Venezuela.
From Venezuela. Very good. Thank you. Welcome.
Mr. Drosso says, yes, I now welcome again in Greece. My school is open for all of us. Yes.
Hello, Miguel. How have you been?
Angela says, no, sir, I'm in LA.
In LA, all right. I'm going to remember that. Frank gave me a short, Mr. Soto just gave me a short, very short summary on you. You probably heard it.
Please, Frank is good. Frank is good. No, Mr. Soto. That's my father.
All right. Just so you understand, publicly, I have a tendency of using the last name. That was Mr. Parker's protocol. I don't call other instructors by their first name publicly in front of people. Now, if they're lower ranked than me, one-on-one, I'll refer to you as Frank. For me to continue to refer to you as Frank right now is going to take some mental checking because I'm just in the habit of doing it Mr. Parker's way and saying the last name.
Yeah, but see, I'm the younger one and the lower rank here, so my respect is to you. So.
All right. I'll try to keep that in mind.
Miyagi I guess it's Argentina. What good, Arg? What good to see Grandes del Kenpo. Big hug from Argentina. Yeah, see, Argentina.
All right, Argentina. Nice name.
Manuel Jaro says, greeting from Gilroy.
Mr. Haro. Mr. Haro is actually my highest ranking black belt. He's a 7th degree black belt. He's preparing to test for his 8th this year. He's been with me since he was 10. I think he's almost 40 right now.
Wow. Nice.
Still actively teaching. Yep. He's teaching on Zoom all the time.
Greetings, Sascha and Frank. Competed against you in the IKC in the late 90s. Always a pleasure.
Oh, all right. Thanks for being there to compete with. Would have been embarrassing if it was only like one or two of us.
Hi, James. Edward Chavez says, yes, sir. So, yes, it is.
It is the right Eddie Chavez. Very good. It's good to see you, man. Very good to see you. We competed against each other twice, I think, that I remember. You might remember Eddie Chavez. You might remember I think we competed against each other in Whittier, California, and sometime in the 90s. And I think we both did either long form 5 or long form 6. I just remember we did the same form. We might even have tied. I forget. I beat him there, right? I had to barely beat him. And then in 2000 at the Masters, he beat me. That's the story of my life. I did the same thing with.
You have to do it again.
So, very good. So keep up the good work, Eddie. Mr. Chavez.
One question, sir, because you brought it up a little earlier. So the what we call long form 8 is actually the knife set because it was long form 7. I don't remember that much. So what happened to long form 8? Was it ever created, the new form?
Well, not that I know of. What I can tell you is what I've been privy to. That's all I can tell you. I did not have a conversation with Mr. Parker. Hey, how come we don't do long form? You know, the knife set, how come we do the clubs? I was so excited that, you know, by the time it was my turn to learn, go past long form 6, that I was learning the double clubs. I thought it was the coolest thing ever. I actually like the double clubs more just as a weapon, because I think if I have 2 knives in my hand, I'm not so worried. In a street situation, I think I'll do all right.
Right, of course.
If I have 2 clubs in my hand, there's definitely a greater tendency of having, if you've never done it before, there would be more questions, right? Okay, well, they're pretty long compared to just empty hands. I will probably have to make greater changes. I will have to probably think about this more, even than if I had 2 knives in my hand. Not that having 2 knives is not just as intricate, but it's a little bit like having a gun in your hand. I only need to know so much to survive. And see, one thing that people might not understand about me is that I came to Mr. Parker from 2 different, with 2 different motivations. On one hand, I was already running a karate school. Right? For me, the thought of being able to have a career doing a karate school that was a no-brainer for me. So that's what I'm going to do, right? But then the other thing was, back then I used to work security quite a bit. I used to catch shoplifters all the time. I used to have to use Kenpo constantly, right, out in the street. I was by myself. My only weapon was a pair of handcuffs, right? And I had a pair of handcuffs and a badge. And back in those days, we were told, no, you chase them down. You catch that son of a gun. If they stole from us, I don't care what you have to do, right? Now, you know, they do that very differently. Everybody gets sued, right? But because of that, I was always very, very concerned about the practicality. I needed the stuff to work, right? And so also when I worked the knife techniques, for example, the knife defenses, I took it completely from that viewpoint. And one thing that people don't understand about Mr. Parker, or might not be aware of with Mr. Parker sometimes, is that how good of a lesson you got from him depended a whole lot on how much you engaged him. Right? There's this video on the internet of me a long time ago, but because Mr. Parker had done those 2 instructors camps in Ventura, California, right, at Barbara Hale's school. And there's a video of me where he's correcting me on the thundering hammers, right? Because I was doing it with a cat stance instead of when I was doing the back knuckle, right? And so we had this conversation. He was explaining right there to me his reasoning. And then if you listen carefully to the video, right, he's asking me if that answered my question. And you're going to hear me say no, right? Which most people would not dare to do with Mr. Parker because they thought that might have sounded like an insult. When in reality, that's exactly what Mr. Parker wanted. He wanted to be engaged a little bit. He wanted to be asked, well, but why? Why are you doing it like that? I was thinking of doing it like this. What's the difference? And in that video, actually, he does it. If anybody pays attention to it, he says that the reason why I could do my version the way I wanted to, because I said I was using more reverse action. I was moving back. Why can't I do that? And he said, you could do that, but you're adding an extra step.
Right.
Had I not spoken up at that moment, I would have never had that answer.
Never changed that. Yeah. Right.
Right. To me, that didn't make me look weak. It did the opposite. No. I said, like, no. I'm not just going to just be a yes man and just accept everything that's being shoved down my throat here. Not that that's what Mr. Parker was trying to do, right? But the point is, if I don't get it, that's an issue. I need to understand the reasoning behind this, right? Well, so I had the opportunity to ask a lot of questions to Mr. Parker. That's how I would teach at my school. And whenever you teach, questions arise, right?
And I really believe that there are no stupid questions, only stupid answers.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
So I think you have to ask. Yeah. You have to ask.
Yes. Yes.
And what a privilege you had there to be able to ask the man.
Right. And see, the thing is, never take it for granted. Never, ever take your instructor for granted. Because that's exactly what happened when Mr. Parker passed away. None of us were ready for that. Right? We were completely surprised by it. We never even fathomed that was possible at that time at all. Right? And so a lot of people, for the lack of a better way of saying it, a lot of people got caught with their pants down. They might have gone like, oh, but I didn't work that hard the last 2 years, and he was going to promote me, and now I wasted time, and now what do I do? Right? Or I didn't learn the last thing that he taught. Now what do I do? Right? And so that did cause some issues. But on the other hand, There was a positive. One experience that I had in my life that has had a huge impact on me was being involved right after Mr. Parker passed away. Just like that picture that you showed right there a moment ago with that big group picture. That was the beginning of a lot of networking, right? We didn't just go there to say we support, oh, yeah, okay, this is a nice picture. This was in the early 90s. On the very left, that's Harry Sanders. In the middle, that's how William Kongaika looks like when he has hair. And then on the very right, that's me. So in this picture, yeah, I said the gentleman on the very left is Harry. In this picture, we're all still Harry. Even Mr. Kongaika. I thought it was a good picture because that was quite a long time ago. That's at the Pasadena school after it was rebuilt. And that's right there, Germany. This was the first official German IKKA seminar tour after Mr. Parker passed away. So you see right there in the middle, there's Skip Hancock. All right, next to Skip Hancock, there's me. Mrs. Parker had called me. She basically told me that I needed to go here. All right. She told me, we got seminars planned right now. I've got Skip going. I need you to go with him. So I said, yes, ma'am. All right. I was never the type to really question leadership all that much. Let me rephrase that. Some leadership I question every day. But when it came to accepting the fact that there was a leadership in Kenpo, especially like with Mr. Parker, when I'm part of an organization, I'm part of that organization. Right. And if we have to step over dead bodies to support the top, then that's what we're going to have to do. And I don't mean that literally. I mean that figuratively.
I understand. Yeah.
Right. So you don't undermine your own organization. That's just a no-no. For me, that's a no-no. Right. So then when Mr. Parker passed away, clearly this fell into the Parker family's lap. Right. At that one meeting where you had that picture of that big group picture, Mrs. Parker said that originally, up until that day, they hadn't really, or up until that week maybe, they hadn't planned. The Parker family and Mrs. Parker, they had not planned to take over the leadership of the IKKA. They were talked into it by all of us. That's what happened, right? She even said, we were just going to continue with the supply company part of it and let all the high black belts do whatever they think was the right thing to do. It was all of us realizing that if that happens, we'll never have a cohesive group. There's no way. How are we going to work out, okay, who's going to be at the top of the group? Who's going to have the most influence, right? And there was, all these different groups and factions that have not really been in contact with each other very much, right? So this was our first time getting all into contact with each other. And so we needed this hub. We needed a hub to continue to survive. And that hub naturally was going to be the IKKA. And
it was a different time, a different era, right?
Very much so. Very much so. Don't forget also that think of the.
We didn't have all this.
We didn't have what?
All this communication, all this, getting in touch so easily.
Just think of the process. You make videos with that Kenpo on it. I make videos with Kenpo on it. We get second takes, third takes, fourth takes. We can do it again tomorrow, right? When you did a video in the 80s or the 90s, you had one day. Right? You set up your whole thing. You bring the camera guys in. You can't do it by yourself with just a cheap recorder, right? No, and however you do your techniques, however you do your techniques on that day, that's how it's going to be on video.
Right.
You can't go afterwards. Let me retake this. Let me retake that. Right. So when you look at some of the pioneers, the Tracy, Planners, Tatum, that's how they had to do it. Much more difficult to create videos that way.
Right.
We got it made. Just like it was more difficult to learn Kenpo. But imagine you're trying to learn Kenpo in the 70s. Well, how are you even going to find an instructor? And if you do find an instructor, the 70s, a big part of the atmosphere in the 70s was one of creating your own art. Elder Cascas, right? There's one Hakundo and stuff like that. Things that have all kind of fallen by the wayside now.
You have so many guys creating their own art. All the Cascos, Benny the Jet, Tino Toilozenga, Chuck Norris. You name it. There's so many.
Ed Parker.
Yes, Ed Parker, right? But he was
Bruce Lee, right? Bruce Lee started that also, right? Right. So that was a trend that was so strong back then that people valued it more than what they value it now.
Right.
I don't think if you come nowadays and say, hey, I had this great idea. I'm going to mix Kenpo with Taekwondo and boxing, and I'm going to call it such and such, and nobody's going to pay attention to that anymore. Right?
No, I agree.
Right. And let's also not forget, if it was the 70s, you could have just yellow, orange, purple belt knowledge in Kenpo. You can make it to Grandmaster with that.
Right.
A few people did.
Right.
Right?
I understand.
Because, well, compared to anything else that was there, it was way above anything.
Way ahead. Right.
And now, how are you going to predict what's going to happen in 20 years or 30 years?
You couldn't.
Right? And so, what people don't realize is that Mr. Parker, this is what bugs me sometimes when people say we need an evolution in Kenpo. Now, let me say this. Yes, we do need an evolution in Kenpo, but it's not the Kenpo that needs the evolution. It's us.
Right.
Mr. Parker was way ahead of all of us. Right. The only people that should alter Kenpo to make it, to evolve it further are the ones who've already mastered everything Mr. Parker taught. Once you do that, maybe there's, a need for some change for you, right? But most of us are busy trying to understand what Mr. Parker was trying to teach us, though. Hopefully. If you think you already know it all, then you're stuck, right? One of the prerequisites to learning is you have to have a mindset that you don't know it already, right? If you have that, then you're stuck, right? But
right. So we have more comments. Let me bring some more comments because there's a lot of people trying to say hello.
Yes, it's hard to shut me up, so go ahead.
Manon Aben says, hello, Sascha.
Manon, how have you been? I've known Manon since, I think, well, you saw that picture right there, right, in Germany?
Nice.
That picture in Germany with Chris Springer in it and Skip Hancock happened 2 days before I met Manon, because our next stop was Netherlands. Right? And it was... have her remind me of what city it was, because it wasn't Amsterdam. We went Utrecht. We went. That's where Hans Hesselman's school was, right?
Right.
And that was a trip where we got the Netherlands guys back into the IKKA, because there was, there was just like here in the United States, there was some politics, and there was a little bit of misunderstandings from previous arrangements between countries, right? And they had never been worked out, and so it was Skip and my lovely job to try to fix all that, right? But the nice thing is, what I've noticed, not just with the guys in the Netherlands, was that they had been chugging on all along that entire time, right? The time that they were not in the IKKA, they were not passive. They worked their stuff. They did their Kenpo. So when they came back in, they never really skipped the beat. And the proof is in the pudding, because when for anybody who went to the European camps, the European IKKA camps that we had throughout, the 90s and beyond, the guys from the Netherlands were there every year. They represented well. They hosted one of the camps, right? But Europe was actually something that we put in the 90s. We put a lot of energy into, simply because there was a lot of support coming from Europe, and the attitude of the Europeans was, quite frankly, better than the attitude of Americans.
Right. Mr. Hesselman says, greetings to both of you. Hans.
Oh, Hans Hesselman. How have you been, Mr. Hesselman? I'm my last name thing, so he's a head guy in the Netherlands. I don't want to just call him by
name. Hello, salute, sir.
But I mean, just so people also know, it was at the, we all know about Ireland was one of the first countries that, McSweeney brought Kenpo over there. But we also all know that they had, dozens and dozens of different Kenpo factions, right? Typical Irish, just like the Americans. Right? So, but then they kept strong, though. They kept strong with being involved with Kenpo. It never died out. It grew more. Same thing with the UK. Jersey being a big leader there originally with Roy McDonald, right? A lot of us don't appreciate Roy McDonald enough. He was a loyal supporter of the IKKA from back in the early 80s, having conversations with Rainer Schulte and Mr. Parker and everything, totally committed to that, and still is to this day. Never went and created his own organization or tried to split anybody up. I mean, but there's been like issues he's had with, like, people breaking off and stuff like that, or, are you on this side, are you on that side? We've all had that.
Right.
But in terms of unwavering support and continuing Mr. Parker's work, right, that was really some of the strongest we had in Europe. We had them, and we had Germany, right, which Rainer Schulte wasn't all that active anymore, but Chris Springer had his class. That's where you saw that picture. That was at Chris Springer's place, who was one of Rainer Schulte's black belts, right? That was above his health club. That's why it looked like, you see the roof design right there. You can see it a little bit. We're all the way upstairs. That's, where the Kenpo people got relegated to because the rest of the building was a health club, right? Interesting health club in Germany, man, because here we are in the middle of the 90s, and we're taking a break from the seminars. We go to that snack area, in the health club, and everybody smokes cigarettes. That was weird, even though I grew up in Germany, and but that was earlier. That I had been gone for like 10 years, and everybody smoked back then. But while in the United States we got rid of public smoking, that didn't quite happen in Germany yet, right? But it was them, and then there was a few guys in Spain that just started out. There was John Nicolau in Greece that was just kind of very new to this too, and he got help from some of the other guys. Most of those guys had to go to Jersey, had to go to England or to Ireland in order to get their lessons, or fly one of their instructors in, right? And so there was no that was about it. That's what we had. Mark Siegel just came around. He's not. I don't think he was in that picture that you saw at the Chris Springer School. Can you put that? There you go. No, I don't think he's there because he wore his white gi. But he was there that weekend. Mark Siegel. That's the same weekend I met and worked out. I'm quite sure that's when it was because I was there a couple of times, and I know I worked with Mark right there. I remember that, and I'm pretty sure Skip was there too. It must have been that same weekend. Mike can always, Mr. Siegel can always correct me if I'm wrong in my recollection. But that was about it. That's what we had over there.
Wow.
But we had people that tried very hard. I don't want to take too long, be too long-winded. I'm sure you got lots of questions and such.
We have lots of comments. Jose Rosario says saludos from Louisiana.
Yes. Jose Rosario from Louisiana. Very good. Somebody who's really working hard on learning Ed Parker's version of Kenpo. He's got a good background. He did Kung Fu as he grew up, right? And he did some Jiu-Jitsu. And he actually is, you know how he got to love Kenpo? He saw the perfect weapon.
Wow.
As a kid. I think he told me he was like, I forgot, somewhere around 8 or 9 or 10 years old, something like that. He saw the perfect weapon and that kind of sold him. But he didn't have an opportunity to really study it, so now he is. So I'm happy for him.
Nice. Jose Miguel Morales, great interview.
Hello. I see you on Facebook all the time. I'm glad you joined.
William Larry Kongaika. Master Williams, great seeing you.
Great. So this is how I can get a hold on you. I got to do a podcast so that I can actually hear. I'm not the only one who has a hard time.
He's a busy man, yeah.
Well, but also somebody who plays a very important role and has for a while, I would say, right? Now, he was in a unique position, just like I was in a unique position, I think. And I say that because I think both him and I are sort of between generations. All right. I'm a boomer. I'm older than him, but I still have my hair. But anyhow, most of all the guys that you know about, Trejo, Tatum, and even the guys that were below them, and everybody, most of them are 5 to 10 years older than I am.
They're all boomers.
Most of them were. Right, most of them were either 1 or 2 belt ranks ahead of me. Paul Mills was the 4th. I was a 3rd when Mr. Parker passed away. Skip, I'm pretty sure, was a 4th, right? I was a 3rd. But they were even more connected to Mr. Parker, I think, than I was. They had a longer relationship with him, right? But Larry Kongaika, as well as myself, we witnessed all of this. We saw this. And with him being then part of the family and studying at the Pasadena School in the 90s, he was just like I was. We were witness to all of these different people coming together from everywhere. And we had the privilege to interact with all these other Ed Parker black belts. And if I could go back in time, I would do it again. And I would do it even more. And I would take a video recorder with me. Because one thing that I thought was super, super important is that I know how Mr. Parker taught me some of this material. I even know how he taught the instructors that I worked with some of that material. Right. If it was from Ed Parker to Doug McLeod to me, I could kind of see some of the changes that McLeod might have made. Everybody makes some changes because it fit him. But then if I saw somebody else do that, I see how Mr. Parker taught John Sepulveda, and then John Sepulveda shared that new version with me, for example. I can also see how some of those were a little bit more like a signature, the way Mr. Sepulveda liked to call it, was a signature move. He made it his own, like Larry Tatum makes it his own, right? Well, when you see that from 10 different Ed Parker black belts, there are common denominators.
Right.
So you can figure out more, like Paul Mills is a good example. right? Some people don't realize is one of the reasons why he's so fast was because he was a quick draw artist, you know, for shooting competition.
Right.
And that
right.
changes your timing. That changes your timing of footwork in relation to the hands. And people don't spend enough time thinking about that. That was a hint, right? That was a hint.
Right.
So when you look at that, then you can also get the idea of, look, obviously Mr. Parker focused on that aspect with that black belt. Obviously, Mr. Parker recognized that talent in that person and furthered that talent if the person was smart enough to go with that, right?
Beautiful.
So it was like an extension of Mr. Parker that you could witness. And both Larry Kongaika and myself were in the middle of the circus, I guess you could say, right? But we saw everybody in the United States. We saw everybody in Europe, right? And we saw each other every freaking Kenpo event because I would be there for all of them throughout the 90s. And so was he. He had no choice. He was married to Sherry. He had to be, but he would have been there anyhow, right? He is a total Kenpo junkie, right? So that gives us a very unique view, a very unique insight and a very unique view and a very unique opportunity.
Right.
So I'm glad you're here, Mr. Kongaika. Great to hear from you.
Okay.
We got to talk before the 20th to make sure that we're good.
We are out of time.
Oh my goodness, already.
Yeah, we already have an hour passing. So I just wanted to say fast, thank you to everybody that commented. We didn't have time to say, there's so many of you. I'm just passing them fast.
Jose Antonio, Catherine.
Yeah, maybe you get to read them afterwards with the.
Oh, absolutely. I need a video of all of this. I'm going to post this. Hey, Scott Higgins. How you been, Scott?
So
nice guy.
Kim also says hi.
Kim, very good. Nice to see you here. And this is the, I see Larry Kongaika is already in the middle of some deep conversation.
Yeah,
and Stan Hatfield.
Yeah,
all right, very good. Nice to see you there, Mr. Abbott.
Merv Berman also says.
Mervin, good to see you. Say hello to Jackie. Jason Churchill, very good. Oh, you missed it. Don't worry. It'll be reshown, right?
Let me just ask if somebody wants to get in touch with you, social media.
Well, all you got to do is look for my name, if you can spell it, right? And put that in Kenpo together, and you're going to probably first see the YouTube videos that pop up. But we have Fresno Kenpo Karate is our school, actually, right? Originally, I used to call all my schools Williams Kenpo Karate, but now it's Fresno Kenpo Karate, and it's a Facebook page, right? I have my personal Facebook page, Sascha Williams, my wife, Renee Williams, who's a very active black belt. She actually started the Fresno school when I had Madera and Los Banos schools and a couple of other ones, right? So that should be pretty easy to find. Put Kenpo and Williams in there. We should be popping up there somewhere. And
thank you very much, sir, for this conversation. This was amazing. And if I may ask, would you like to come back? I would love to have you. I mean, there's so much to talk about. We barely touched the surface.
Absolutely, absolutely. I'm surprised we're already done at the end of this podcast.
Yeah, and one more thing, just to mention. Next Saturday, 20, you're going to have a seminar.
Yes, we are all going to have a seminar. It's not mine, it's ours. So Kenpo Strikes Back was a theme that we wanted to kind of strike with this. This is all about, coming back with more enthusiasm after the pandemic. You see, there's some really good seminar instructors there. And the reason why we picked all of these guys and approached everybody here first was because these are all very active instructors. These are guys who have all, just like yourself, been around for a long time, have a lot of experience with also teaching over Zoom, and have a very good ability to explain Kenpo and to illustrate and show movements and such. So I wanted to make sure that it was something that everybody had a lot of fun with, and it's it's going to be a rare opportunity only because it's not often that we have this many of the top instructors all in one day.
Great. Jason says, sorry I missed it. Great job with your student Randy. Yes, great job with your student. Agree.
Yeah, I'm very proud of Randy. And just to be clear on that one, in terms of like developing a lineage, without Randy, I wouldn't be able to do that. A lineage is about as good as your next generation. If you don't, right? Other than that, you can only do videos, right? Just like you have a couple of really good guys that, except they might not be 20 or 30 years younger than you are. Mine is. That's the benefit.
Well, Thank you very much, sir, for being here. Much appreciated. Thank you for your time, for the stories, for your knowledge and wisdom, and for your you have this very good attitude. You have what's the word I'm looking for? It's just the nice attitude, the making fun, in a positive way, sharing that good vibe. Thank you so much, sir. Much
Well, you're
appreciated.
very welcome. I appreciate it. And I'm glad I have an audience that's receptive towards that.
Well, and thank you everybody for watching. And may I remind you, next Saturday in our Open Mat Talks, we're gonna have Grandmaster Larry Tatum talking about Kenpo this Saturday, same time. Don't miss it. And sir, if we may, we're gonna have to bring you back in to keep this conversation going because this was amazing.
Anytime. I enjoyed it very much. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Take care. Thank you for thanks to the International Hall of Fame of Argentina that they allow us to share this podcast through their page. Maestro Juan Martin Alvarez, thank you, sir, and hello to everybody there. Take care. Have a great day, and see you soon.
All right.